all this up and dealing with, and I hate to use the word tsunami because when for people who live on islands, that's not necessarily a word you want to hear, but the very, very large number of people who registered for these workshops, part of it being that being at home with COVID, people were looking for things to do, and part of it being that there seems to be quite a pent-up demand. So for everyone, welcome very much. This is the second of the initial 5 IARU Region 2 workshops. This is the first one we've done in English. Ramon and I sort of agreed, he as president and being a native Spanish speaker and me being an English speaker, that we would trade off who was doing moderator for which session. So the purpose of tonight's session is specifically emergency communications introduction, and it was specifically for the Caribbean region. And this was partly to finally be able to organize and present something that we promised the Caribbean Telecommunications Union that we would be doing for them to have an emergency communications seminar focused on Caribbean region and your unique problems. So that's the reason we have that. Well, obviously, there are some other people on who are from other parts of the Caribbean who aren't part of the union. No problem with that. And I believe we may also have the ITU, International Telecommunications Region 2 representative on. I saw him very briefly on the attendance list, but then I lost him. So, Tommy, have you logged in yet?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Tommy, say hello. Tommy is the area director for the eastern half of the Caribbean.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the workshop, which has been long in running and in planning. I'm very happy that you're all able to join the session and make the time to join it. And thanks to our new coordinator for conferences for arranging this August 2. So I would like to welcome you all again and wish you a very productive workshop this evening.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. The other person I want to just recognize very briefly, Ramon said it at the beginning, and that is Visnu, Yankee Bravo 0. Oh, I've gone blank.
Alpha Zulu.
Alpha Zulu. I should know. I'm pretty sure it's in my logbook a few times. Anyhow, and he's the president of Region 3, which is the Asia Pacific region of the IARU.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good evening for your time. I'm very glad to join this workshop, especially this is the second workshop in English, so I can understand what are you talking about. The first session in Spanish, but I enjoy it very much. It's also very useful for us. So it's a role model for Region 3 also. So maybe we will follow your workshop. So thanks, George. Thanks, Ramon. Thanks, Augusto, for inviting us. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Visnu. It's good to see you again, even though it's what, 6 o'clock in the morning for you. Oh, okay. Before we get started, just for some of you who may not know, what is the IARU? International Amateur Radio Union is the body which represents amateurs around the world. We are formally recognized at the ITU in terms of being able to be there and send delegates. Only national entities, countries have a vote, but we certainly have standing as one of the participant organizations. And of course, the reason that's so important is because the ITU decides who gets what parts of the spectrum. Spectrum is one of the things that governments really like to sell because it doesn't cost them anything. And so amateurs who and our spectrum could be, in the worst case, viewed as something which is being given away for free when money could be made on it otherwise. So while that may sound a little bit overly negative, that's one of the many reasons IARU is here to service. Other areas, of course, we're very interested in promoting amateur radio, having people understand it better, attracting new people to amateur radio, dealing with the issues that in the 21st century, everyone now can communicate personally, which is very different than was true in the old days when hams were very unique in being the only people that could communicate directly person to person without the need to have any sort of intervening mechanisms involved. Region 2, the IARU is divided into 3 regions exactly the same as the International Telecommunications Union, the ITU. Region 2 is the Americas. So I'm speaking to you from the northern end of the Americas of Canada, and we go all the way down to Tierra del Fuego at the southern tip of the South American continent. So that's who we are. Now, as individual hams, you don't become a member of IARU. Your member society is the member of IARU. So for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, it's TTARS, TTARS, who is the member society. So for anyone here who is on this call who is not currently a member of your society for your country, encourage you to join and support their activities, because those activities are one of the reasons we have our frequencies and one of the reasons we're able to present these seminars to you, among many other things. So the other thing I can say, just to sort of finish off on that, is if you haven't visited our website, please do so. It's IARU-R2.org, and then then do a / and do EN for English. We make Spanish the primary default language in Region 2 because that's what the most number of people speak. But the English site is fully there as well, but you just have to type a couple extra characters and then bookmark it. Okay, the format for the evening is going to be, we're going to have Jay present first, and then Mike present, and then we're going to save questions and answers to the very end of both of their presentations. The reason being that some of the things Jay may be talking about, you may have questions on. It may turn out in Mike's presentation that they're answered. So we wanted to give a chance to give them both an opportunity to talk, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. You'll use the chat function on Zoom for that. And there's a similar capability in Facebook, and Augusto, as our workshops coordinator, is going to be driving those. So with that, let me first of all introduce Jay Tremblay, VE3 Juliet X-Ray Tango. He is the Radio Amateurs of Canada's Community Services Officer, and he is formerly a critical care paramedic and rescue specialist. So he's had a lot of experience hands-on in this kind of stuff. He's taught first aid and survival programs for 8 years to various companies and also to individuals. And he's now running his own management company. So with that as an introduction, Jay, my good friend, let me ask Augusto to turn this over to you.
Okay, just wanted to make, before turning it to him, just a couple of quick comments. Number one, it's not Facebook, it's a YouTube channel, the live broadcast. We already have 12 people there. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna mute everybody so that they don't, you don't unmute yourself, because that made a little bit of problems for us on the previous workshop, because it was cutting into the presenter. At the end of the both presentations, when the Q&A starts, you will be able to unmute yourselves and ask your questions, and the people who are watching the presentation on the YouTube channel will be able also to have their questions sent via the chat, which I will relay to the presenters. So thank you very much for attending, everybody. I'll mute everyone right now, and I'll pass the ball to Jason.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see that all right. So welcome tonight. We're going to go over some of the skill sets in emergency communications. what I'm going to open up with is a little bit of information that you should think about prior to getting involved with doing the WinLink program itself. So let's see, will this open for me here? Move this out of my way.
Ahora ya está. ¿Qué? ¿La volviste a subir? Pero te dije, déjala abajo. No, te dije, ahorita no puedo, ya empezó. La quería poner.
Alrighty.
No importa. Eso lo hacemos. Sí, ya no importa. No. Bueno, sí, bájala si puedes. ¿Qué Nico te ayuda?
Augusto, mute yourself.
Mute yourself.
All right. No worries, guys. These things happen sometimes. So some lessons for tonight. Having a plan, knowing what your mission is locally, who's talking. This is very important, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. And then we'll give you an introduction to some of the basics of WinLink itself. So the plan, we'll go through this real quickly. There's 3 key things you want to look at. Know your mission, who are you talking to, and know your basics, especially when it comes to this type of communications. This is a tool that is used around the world, and some of the commonalities that we find here in Canada is people do not understand who they're talking to. They don't understand how it fits into their mission. So you should be writing questions down as to how this system will help you out, and hopefully tonight we'll be able to answer some of those questions. Having a plan, like I said, vital step to emergency communications. Part of that plan, you should know your frequencies of operations in local areas, but you should also be able to monitor and understand the frequencies that are used to get outside of your area. One thing that most people forget when they start getting into digital communication is including a maintenance program to keep your systems up to date. WinLink is one of those programs that you cannot just put it in a box, sit it in your closet, and hope that it is going to work for you. There are updates that happen every couple of weeks. Please make sure that if you're going to use WinLink, you keep that as part of your whole plan. Maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. Knowing your mission, VHF, UHF stations, fixed operations, and portable stations. This is real quick, guys. All right, so we have our VHF station here. Yes, I included a printer with this one here. Good for local line of sight operations. HF, we have long distance communications between countries. Both systems work really well. Both systems can be designed to build a very strong communications network, providing you understand what your mission is. And remember one thing, these both work in disaster type situations, emergency type situations, but everything changes every time you get into a new situation. So understanding the basics, understanding what you're seeing here, make some notes. You're going to look at printers, you're going to look at some other things. Now, of course, you don't always have to have the best of everything, but there are some recommendations that I'm sure will be made throughout this. So, fixed and portable stations. A lot of people don't realize that when you have a station that you're just using part-time, that is a portable station, guys. All right, they can be installed in cars. You can carry your kits with you and that. But if it's not online all the time, it is not a fixed station. WinLink is one of those things that when you become a fixed station, you're making a dedicated commitment to the WinLink program across the world. And you'll see why as we go through some of this. So your portable stations are anything that you carry with you in your car, use temporarily, play around with, that kind of stuff. And remember, maintenance is a weekly thing. Make sure you got your software up to date, your ink cartridges, whatever it is that you need, writing material. And most of all, if you're going to be doing this on a portable setup, make sure you have a power supply that is capable of being used for a long period of time. Discharge one of those battery stations, recharge it, and make sure you know how long you can operate your station before you have to start doing recharge. Now we're going to talk a little bit about who's talking. So what you see in front of you right now, of course, is it looks kind of different, but it's the exact same thing. All right. The standard WinLink setup, we use our local stations, and we go through our remote message servers through the internet to CMS servers that are located. There's 5 throughout the world. All right. As long as there's a CMS in service, WinLink will function. But that doesn't mean that if it's not working, it doesn't function either, because the radio and local networks can sort of overtake and become part of a fixed communications network. It works a little bit differently. As you can see, this breaks down so that we have little local groups here, a little local group over here, and another one here. And then we're using HF to get between these groups and that. We'll get into that a little bit later. Some of that is a little bit more advanced, so we won't touch base too much, I don't think, tonight on that. We may touch a little bit. Knowing the basics. So we're going to get you set up and do some look at some of the features, writing some message, look at writing a message and sending a message. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through a couple of slides so you guys can see. Then I'm going to exit out of this presentation and go right into WinLink and bring it up and show you what it looks like live. So when we get started, this is the first thing you're going to see. All right, when you go to winlink.org, all right, you're going to go in there, you're going to download the software from the download section right across the top. It's real easy to find. Once you download it and it goes through, it's going to take you a page that looks somewhat like this. It's going to ask you for your call sign, a password. You have to set this up through this little message board. And when I show you live, you'll see how easy it is to find it. The recovery email that we're talking about there is your personal email or an email that you use all the time. What this is for is if you have any problems with your WinLink system, you want them to be able to send messages to something that's reliable. So make sure it's a service that you use all the time. Okay. The next very important thing, and we can go into tactical call signs and all that later. The contact information, as it says, is optional. Grid square. In order to make WinLink work on RF properly, especially with HF and that, you're going to need a grid square. And it's very important. And one of the things that I find here in Canada is there are guys that live on a cornerstone of a couple of grid squares. If you're using a grid square and you start using that grid square, make sure you continue to use the grid square. It does get confusing, especially in emergency communications. Once you have your grid square in, your call sign, your password, your recovery email, all you have to do is come on down and we'll hit the update button at the bottom there. And that's it. You're in. So we'll go to the next. One of the things I will show you on the live screen in a minute is the settings, features that are part of the WinLink program itself. Honestly, when you get to this point here, if you're only using Telnet, and I'll explain that in a little bit, you're pretty much ready to go. There are a couple of things you might want to adjust for yourself. Everything else comes to personal practice right now, guys. WinLink, the guys that develop WinLink have thought of just about everything. So this is one of those plug and plays that you can be very comfortable using very quickly. It just takes some practice. All right. So if you add it into your routine on a regular basis, it is no different than you sending emails on Outlook or Google, AOL, whatever your mail is. All right. This system is just the same, especially on Telnet. Now, when you start getting into the RF stuff, there are some changes, but not very much. And the format is very easy to switch over. And I'm sure Mike and I will be able to cover some of that tonight. An idea of sending a message, it works the same as any other email. All right. You'll come up here to this little spot up here where it says new message. And this is the little screen that you're going to get. You can still do attachments. We'll get into a little bit more in a minute, but you fill it out who you want it to go to, carbon copy, your subject. Yes, you can put attachments, and then there's your base. Any type of message that you want to put in there, you can put in there. Remember, on Telnet, it's pretty forgiving, but when you start getting into your radio and sending it that way, you don't want a huge message. Now, there are some things that you can do to make it easier. Again, later, that's another thing. So sending a message, once it goes out, you'll see this in a minute. Most of the messages will look exactly like what's on this part of the screen here, if I can get my cursor working. All right, so you're going to have your message ID, you're going to have a date, and I hope everybody can see that. Actually, Augusto, can you see my cursor going across all right? I don't know if you can. George, can you see my cursor moving across my screen?
Yes, we can see it, but you might want to change it to black in Windows 10.
All right. I had so much going on the screen.
Don't worry about it. Just go.
I see it fine.
So you got your two, your sourcing, your subject line, and of course the body, and however you ended off. What this little box is here, now this is actually a session that's done in Pactor. So you'll see a little green line there. We'll explain that when we get into the radio side of it. This is the communications box that shows how your messages are coming in and going out. And they vary just a little bit. So with that, let's see if we can do this here. I want to escape that, escape this, and let's come up. Alrighty. For some reason, where are we here? Bingo. There we go. I don't know why it stopped sharing, but okay. Welcome to WinLink. Very simple screen, very easy to follow. So we'll start up at the top here, guys. As you can see, I've got my call sign in there. You can have other call signs. So if you have this system set up at an emergency operations center and you have multiple users, you can add in additional call signs or tactical call signs on the system, depending on the mission that you have at hand. Tactical call signs can be, hospital such and such, or emergency center such and such, shelter such and such. Beside that, we have our settings button. Now, as I was saying before, the first screen you're going to be asked to go to is our nice little setup. So as you can see here, and don't worry, this is the demo screen. I don't use this for my regular WinLink. I have my personal information. I have phone number, my emails. I have a password set up in there, real nice and easy. I have my grid square set in down here. I've got my path set for 30. This is pretty much all the same. My log set for 2 weeks. You can change it. You can delete messages after 30 days. This allows diagnostic information to be sent to the development team. If that's not checked, please check it. It really helps the team out if there's any problems. Do not check this one here unless you're a developer. All right, that automatically gives you a beta version, and the last thing you want to do is get into that unless you actually know what you're doing. So from the settings, we can now go down preferences. I'll touch base on some of the other stuff in a minute. So these settings, as you read through them, you can add in the stuff that you want and also take stuff out. So you can automatically get acknowledgements for messages that you're sending and receiving. In an emergency situation, some messages may need those acknowledgements. Other messages, they might not need them. So you may want to do that manually because it really bogs down your system. Okay, so that's one of the things that you'll have to really play with it a little bit and get comfortable with it. Automatically add contacts. This is a really good one to have. This is your contact bar over here. What this means is every time you send a message and you get a response back from that individual, instead of you having to add their email address in like you normally do, this automatically populates this little part of the screen over here so that everybody that you've talked to is now on your WinLink, and you can save that so that you have that. And there is group setups as well. So that's part of the playing around with the program itself and practicing with it. Some of the other settings here, we have message forwarding. Okay, so you can have message forwarding done automatically. Some of these features you want to play with after you get used to sending and receiving the messages directly, but you do have the ability to automatically get message notifications. You can automatically forward messages to specific addresses, and you can choose whether it's a priority or, you know, immediate, flash, routine, whatever, depending on your situation or what you do, what you need this system to do. So let's cancel out of there. One thing that I will pull up, I know you guys, a lot of you are in the Caribbean, and this is not something that usually gets taught on WinLink, but I'm going to show you something here. This is a way to request a GRIB file. And in case you don't know what these are for, this is normally used by sailors. All right, and what you can do is you can highlight an area like around the Caribbean down here, and you can request for this to be sent out, and we will get a report back, and that's this one here, along with an attachment. If we go to our attachments file, you'll get a little file like this. Now, I use this all the time for myself because I pull up this little program, and when I go into my file, I can actually get this little feature. Let's see if I move this over actually. So I can actually get this to come up. And this is what I did the other night for demonstration purposes. So this is my area. This is where George and I live. And I'm getting my wind directions, speeds, and a little bit of barometric pressure within the grid that I've selected. So one of the nice features about this is if you are stuck someplace in the middle of nowhere in a tent and you are trying to do communications for somebody and you are worried that you're in harm's way, WinLink has a couple of different features that will give you online access to weather data and other things. So it can also give you situational reports. It's not just a communications device, all right, for doing emails. Now I got this little black screen here that I gotta move down. All right, that's out of my way now. All right, so that's just something to think about. And like I said, this here is just ideas of some of the messages, guys. We got a message ID across here. This was a weather report that I did from the service to me I actually sent out a request, an inquiry for an extended broadcast for my area, just as a sample. Excuse me. So we have a contacts, the same as you do in a regular email service. You can add contacts, remove contacts. You can import them from other service as well if you need to. What's another one? Personal folders. So over here where you see personal folders, this gives you the opportunity. I'm just going to put one in here for training. All right. So I update that and you're going to see now it's over here in personal folders. So when I get items coming in, I can go up to here where it says moved to, and I can click on this and you'll see that now at the bottom here, I have training and it'll send items over to training. So if I want this to go, I can highlight it and send it over to training. Whatever is in here, I can move it over to the folders that I want. So that just gives you a sort of a breakdown. Now, there are some other things here that people will be asking questions about. The hybrid, I think we'll hold off on this right now, but yeah, no, I'm not updating the list right now. WinLink does give you the opportunity that when you're working radio only to, if you do not have the ability to connect to a CMS, you can select 3 different stations in here that your emails can be forwarded to. So if it is one of those power out situations and there is absolutely no connectivity via the internet, this is that system that I was talking about that replaces communication with the CMS. They do this, they break it down so that it's only 3 to handle the amount of traffic that goes through the CMS servers all the time. So as you get good at starting this and build on, I'm hoping that we'll be able to come back and give you some more training on how to use some of this other stuff so that if you're in a situation, and I'm sure Mike can show you some situations because he's down from around your area where this might come in very handy. All right, so we'll hopefully get to that in a few minutes. Messaging. Everybody wants to know how to send a message. So, new message. Up comes the screen for a new message. Now, right now I'm ready to go on what they call Telnet. Telnet is using the internet and only the internet. I have no connection to radio or anything right now. I'm using my laptop. This is not my WinLink laptop that I use for my radio. So the only 2 things I need to concern myself with is this little box here and this little box here. All right. So to start here, I've got my name. I want to send this as a WinLink message. I can ask for a receipt, and that depends on, like I said, your current situation. Is it an important message or a priority message that you need somebody to, get back to you right away, that they at least got the message? You might want to put that in there. If it's not something that's that urgent and you're just talking to a buddy or whatever, you may not want to get the requests, the acknowledgments and that. So 2, I can put in that's my home email address. Test. No attachments. All right. So yeah, I'm sending this and it's not going to a WinLink address, but it will go. So what I want to do now is real simple. Unlike closing the message in your regular Gmail account, Outlook, or whatever else. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to post this to my outbox. So now you can see over here, it's posted to my outbox. I've added my contact down here. It's already been added. Now I'm going to come up to here and I'm going to open up a session. Simple session opens up. I hit start. It's going to connect to the CMS and it's going to go through the internet. And as you can see here, it has sent one message. No more messages to be sent. Down here with the FQ, meaning I have no more messages to be sent. End of that session, total messages sent, and I've now disconnected. This system can be set up to do this automatically. You can do automatic polling if you want to. And it's real simple to go into the system. Autocorrect times, automatic backup, background monitoring. There are a lot of different features that you can use. I never use the automatic stuff because I find that if I'm doing that, there's times I miss things because I used to have it set up where my messages would only stay there for so long. So that's it. It's quick and easy. I just sent a message. It's gone to my personal email, and that there is, you know, in a nutshell, sending a message from WinLink all the way along. Now I'm going to set up another new message. I'm going to come across here. As you can see, we can put in attachments, as I said before, but there's something here I want to show you before show anything else. This is templates. And the guys at WinLink have been very, very nice. They have actually set it up so that, I don't know if this will let me do this. Yeah, it might do it. Come on. Oh. So this is the message that I am actually sending through WinLink. I could fill in all of these nice little spots all through here. And when I hit submit,
Jason, none of your forms are showing up, only your initial screen.
Oh, all right. I kind of figured as much. All right. WinLink, come back to me. All right, we're back here. Is that showing now?
No.
How's
you
that?
may just need to move on.
Yeah. Okay. So at this time, you can see at least the message screen on WinLink.
Enter new message is all that's showing.
Perfect. All right. So the attachment section up here, the selection for templates, there are templates that are pre-made by the WinLink team that you can use to make things a little bit easier in emergency situations or in regular situations, depending on how you use it. Once you send that through and open it up, it actually opens up in an HTML page that is very easily filled in. And once it's filled in, you close that off, it'll come back right to this screen here and populate all of this. Unfortunately, I can't show you that right now. Sorry, guys. So that's pretty much sending messages. This part here, we can go into this a little bit later on. Everything that you see here that is WinLink, all right, is one set of options to use, and that is a WinLink message. Then you have your person-to-person, All right, P2P. This is a radio sent system here, okay? And it only goes to one individual. It's not meant to go all over the place. So if you have a selected receiver, you can use that through the person to person. One of the things that I like is the Telnet Post. This works as a network, a local area network system. So if you have multiple laptops set up, they can send messages into your station, and then you can send your messages out. So you actually become like a post office. All right, but that's a little bit further down the road. I'm gonna come back to here now, guys. And so just a quick review. Review your plan regularly, make changes based on your practice sessions that you do with WinLink, and you have to practice. Make sure that all changing things in your plan, you let other parts of your teams know. This is very important because, like I was saying, you're on a grid, you're sending this information. So one of the things that people forget, if you change your frequency and they don't know about it, you've got a problem. So if you're working with other groups around your area, if you make changes to your plan, make sure that the other teams know those changes. Knowing your mission, very important. No two events are ever the same. Be sure to ask the right questions, know your frequencies, and work the plan that you've got put in place, even if you have to make adjustments as you're going on. Look to all your team and situations so that you know where your messages are going. Review your communications plan, frequencies, propagation reports, and check for stations with WinLink so that you know that they can hear you. And there are ways to do that in the WinLink system. So thank you all, guys, tonight. And that would be the end of me.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Could you unshare your, there we go. Good. Thank you very much. As I said, we're going to hold the question and answer session until after the second presentation. So I'm going to move on to the second presentation now, and that's going to be by Mike Burton. And Mike, as an intro, his background, he's XE2/N6 Kilo Zulu Bravo. So in other words, he moved a few miles south of that California border where he used to live, as best I can tell. Mike's a retired 25 years in the fire service. He specialized in communications there. He was and disaster management. He ran as chief of their 911 emergency call center and also ran their IT organization as well. And most importantly for us, he was one of the key members of the WinLink's development team. So, I mean, if there's anybody that knows this system, it's Mike, because he was there and it continues to help support it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike, and then after Mike finishes, we'll do some question and answer. So go take it away, sir.
Okay, thank you. This is the only time you're going to see my face. Remember it, live it, enjoy it. I don't like showing myself to the world. All right, I'm going to share the screen, get right into it. The best way to do this is to show you some real world examples of why WinLink exists and what it can do for you. And after these, I will show you how it actually works. Full screen. There we go. WinLink was used extensively during the Mexico earthquake and the Puerto Rico disaster of 2017. I'm going to give you some observation from behind the scenes and assistance provided to amateur radio EmCom responders for network access. As George indicated, I'm a member of the WinLink development team. I'm primarily responsible for the templates and the management of the forums. I also am a manager of Mexico's WinLink gateways, which they have many. Everyone remembers the Mexico 7.1 earthquake. Occurred 65 kilometers outside of Mexico City. A lot were killed and injured with widespread pockets of damage. Infrastructure was down, overloaded, or intermittent. It was coincidentally 32 years to the day of the previous Mexico City 8.1 earthquake. FMRE activated its amateur red net to include WinLink resources. FMRE is Mexico's primary organization for their amateur radio operators, much like the American ARRL. I wonder if that guy's happy or not. I hope he's got good insurance. This is the part that I want to show. This is XC2SI, a member of FMRE, still around, and a silent key XC2EFR. During the 1985 earthquake, they did health and welfare traffic out of Mexico City back to the radio club in Tijuana, and then telephone into San Diego and other parts. The radio equipment you see there was all loaned to them by HRO in Anaheim, a nice modern Kenwood 930. All this equipment. Why am I showing you this? All these health and welfares they did were handwritten. They kept them down to 2 or 3 short sentences, and it took a long time to transfer and receive at the other end. They had to do a lot of repeats. Why? They had no digital process, all handwritten. Now let's go to the earthquake that occurred in 2017. Guanajuato, a member of FMRE, sent their mobile resource van for communications. In there, they have a complete WinLink station using a Pactor modem. They were sent to handle the communications at the collapsed school. Why? Because the infrastructure was going in and out. What was up was overloaded, and they were there to do the communications for the responders and resource information. They did 31 messages on Pactor, 40 and 20 meters primarily, average message size 5K. Primary gateways used, you can see there. HF auto forwarding was done on Pactor when needed. They would send messages normally to the Mexico City gateway, which still had power, but kept losing internet. When internet would drop out, it would go into an automatic mode and send over HF the messages to another gateway to borrow its internet connection. And we'll cover that in depth in a little bit. Puerto Rico, this is probably more attuned to the people in the Caribbean, because this is what they could probably face. September 20th, we all know about the Hurricane Maria. Major destruction, lost to most infrastructure and services. That's what it looked like. No infrastructure, pretty much nothing. With so much infrastructure damage, the WinLink system could assist in the outer area email delivery. Red Cross was the primary user of WinLink at that point. They wanted volunteers that were WinLink capable. The ARRL assisted in gathering 22 to respond with Go kits. The ARRL provided the Go kits that they had. These are mostly ICOM 7200s, 40-meter dipoles, and external tuner. We won't go into why they sent that type of package, but at least the operators there, those that were ham savvy, soon discovered they could fold a 40-meter dipole to get 15 meters, and the external tuner would tune other bands. Red Cross provided laptops with WinLink Express, and as Jay indicated, they have to be updated. These were not updated for over a year. A lot of things are missing, but the basic communications was there, and they were able to update a few of them once they had some internet. The teams that went there were housed at fire stations, hospitals, and government facilities. These are the forms that Jay was referring to. As you can see here, this is a way to send stuff digitally. No need for handwritten transcription. You pop the form up in your WinLink Express, you fill it out, and you send it. Why is this important? Because normally, this message here, if you sent the entire HTML, would be 20, 30K in size. Very big for radio transmission. However, because it's an Express program, it automatically converts it to an XML format, 1 or 2K, sends it out at that size, and at the other end, the Express user opens it and it renders it to what he sees here. Very efficient use of band. Here's a 213RR resource request. I defy somebody to try to send this by voice without making mistakes. You're not going to do it. Those that are proponents of voice information, don't do it. Voice is best used for short, tactical, and emergency. There were 22 teams. Some of them were very, very adept. This guy snuck his own equipment in on the airplane, and he's using his own radio equipment and his own solar panels and a PACTOR modem. He was one of the few that were equipped with the efficient and reliable PACTOR protocol. The other gateways, the other users there that were set up were using WinMore, which is a very poor protocol because it's sound card based. It doesn't do well in HF. Band conditions are fading. And when bands are weak as they are now, it's very, very bad. WinLink can provide an out-of-area email delivery system. This is important. You need to understand that WinLink's mission in life is to let you send and receive email traffic when there is no internet out of your area. You can send email traffic to anyone in the world, a normal email address, another WinLink address, and they can receive it and they can reply to you all over radio. A trained and equipped HF operator can be essential the first few days. WinMore RDOT protocols have limitations on distance and band conditions that make PACTOR 3 and 4 invaluable. I do realize a PACTOR modem is not cheap, but if you're serious about EmCom communications, you need to plan for budgeting that. The newer protocol, VeriHF, if you use the registered version, is the only sound card protocol recommended. It is about equal to PACTOR 2. Use of HTML templates and Express reduce operator time and keep consistency in message content. During this event, hundreds of messages were sent in 3 weeks via HF. Average message size was about 5K. We'll go on to the next part. WinLink was also used in the fires in Mexico in Monterrey in 2017. The amateur operators and their equipment were flown by helicopter into a remote site that they had to relocate a second time. This was the go kit that the president of FMRE XC20, Alfonso, a friend of mine, they took to the event. It doesn't have a PACTOR modem, but they did have Vera protocol because when they were at the airport, he was able to give me internet so I could get in with TeamViewer through his cell phone, and I was able to load the Vera protocol, which had just been released, so they had an effective communications tool on the fire. These are the antennas they used. VHF for local communications, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yep, that's a buddy pole configured as a steerable dipole. There's a better shot of the communications package. He was in this connected section, I believe, with N5TW in Texas, moving traffic on Vera HF. And that was the communications team. They spent about a week and a half there, and they rotated, and they were flown in by helicopter and had to move at least once. The system. Learning the WinLink system. What is WinLink? Terms and definitions, the system and linkages, message and routing examples, hardware configuration and modes. As I earlier stated, WinLink is a worldwide radio email service that uses radio pathways when internet is not present. It is also capable of operating completely without the internet automatically using smart network radio relays. 2 gateways can use radio RF forwarding if necessary. WinLink had its origin with the sailing community. However, now it's substantially broader role supporting emergency and disaster relief communication worldwide. WinLink also supports non-government communications such as shares, as administered by the Department of Homeland Services, Red Cross in Europe, and a lot of embassies. They all use the same servers, the same software, just different frequencies. The system is built and operated entirely by licensed volunteers for over 25 years, for 20 years. And it's a nonprofit organization. RMS, this is the heart of everything, the radio mail server. This is a gateway that you connect to with your Express. It's connected to the internet to the common message server. Client stations connect by RF to RMS. You are a client station. in the field with your portable, at home with your station. You're connecting by radio to an RMS, and that RMS handles your traffic to the internet to a common message server that is handled worldwide. The common message server is situated now in the Amazon Web Services. It is load-bearing and redundant with two complete interfaces. There is one standalone old-style CMS server kept in San Diego live all the time, and it can still function and handle the entire network as a backup. Radio-only operation. This consists of RMS stations, that's a gateway, that can auto-forward by RF independent of internet availability. We'll show that to you in a moment. How does all this keep from getting confused and duplicates? Every message is assigned a unique alphanumeric code when you generate it. And that is what prevents duplications. How well does it work? WinLink uses BTF forwarding compression to compress each message, and it uses automatic repeat on request. It ensures perfect accuracy. If you load up a spreadsheet and the other guy gets that spreadsheet, it's completely accurate. You load up a photo and the other guy gets that photo, not one pixel is lost. This is over radio. There is no other protocol out there that can match this. What do you use as a user? WinLink Express. That's the client software. There are other client softwares available from third parties, Airmail, PAT, BPQ. I do not recommend PAT. This is not an EmCom based protocol. How does it all work? Here you have an email user that's on normal internet. He's at home, normal internet. He sends a message to your WinLink address. It is duplicated. A copy is available on every single radio mail server in the world that's connected to the internet. The client station connects to the radio mail server. His traffic is retrieved and he can send traffic. So this would be client A sending through the internet to client B. If there is no internet, they can automatically HF forward to move traffic. It works very, very well. Outbound messaging. When you compose and save a new message, as I said, the message is signed a unique ID. The operator selects and then you connect to an RMS gateway by radio. If for some reason the CMS cannot be reached due to an internet outage, the connection will be refused, or depending upon the configuration, a pop-up message will indicate that the message will be delivered, internet is restored. It will also indicate if this is an HF auto forwarding system. So you have a choice. You can go to another gateway that has internet, or you can use the HF forwarding based gateway. After the initial handshaking, the message is transferred to the CMS central mail server via the RMS for delivery to its recipient. Inbound message. Client station wants to send you, the WinLink user, on the Caribbean island of Dominica. You've had a terrible hurricane. You have no internet. He sends it here, but you can pick it up because you can connect to the central message server by radio. The CMS is searched for any messages that are destined for your address. There could be 10 or there could be 20, there could be none. The message is saved in the CMS for 21 days after retrieve. This is so that WinLink can look at the message for any issues, and also US call signs are required to be able to be viewed by a web interface when you log in as a WinLink user. International countries other than the US do not meet that, do not have to do that. So those messages are not viewed. Here's a message example. This is Jay up here. He's camping out. He has his Pactor modem. He has his portable radio station. He has HF only. He wants to send traffic. He finds his best connection by the propagation matrix, which I'll show you, connects to W10. W10 is connected to CMS as traffic is delivered to the internet two-way. Here, Jay is northern New York. He's in an affected area that has no internet. There's no internet here. He can connect to KQ4ET or any other gateway that he can reach. And that gateway has no internet. It then HF forwards and they can all pick up their traffic. Jay covered the hardware configuration, so I really won't go into it, but this is pretty much a complete gateway configuration. A client would need a computer. One of these devices as an interface. If you're going to do HF, you'll need a sound card interface, a modem, or if you're using the newer ICOM or Kenwood radios, this is built in. Very nice. Here's your transfer times by radio. This is based on a 4K message after compression. WinLink will compress the message prior to sending it the best it can. So if you're doing direct packet radio, it'll take about 2 minutes to send it. If you're doing through a node, about 2.5 minutes. 9600 baud packet, which a few areas have, 1 minute. Pactor 1 is not used anymore. There are a few holdouts, but it's absolutely useless. You cannot attach attachments to it. Pactor 2, pretty much not used anymore. Pactor 3 is the primary protocol. You can send a 4K message in about 30 seconds. If you're using the HTML templates, you're going to probably be under that 30 seconds. Of course, all these takes two to tango. You have to have good connections at both ends. But the big thing about WinLink, compared to, let's say, FL, Digi, or any of the other type of so-called emergency protocols, is you only need one person, the sender. You don't have to have two people to tango. You don't have to have a person to receive it at the other end. It's all done by the internet and HF auto forwarded by itself. WinMore, I wouldn't even waste my time with it anymore, but it's a good way to get started. RDOP can approach Pactor 2 speeds, and Vera can approach Pactor 3 speeds if there's good conditions at both ends. Pactor 4 is not yet legal in the USA, but it's legal everywhere else. Simple guideline for sending messages. Each RMS, that's the gateway, can only handle one HF connection at a time. I think most of you can read this. Packet gateways generally can handle more than one simultaneous connect. If possible, batch your messages rather than sending one at a time. If there are multiple stations in the affected area that need to use the system, each station can try to use a different RMS. I'll show you how many there are in the world. Keep the messages as brief as possible. I recommend you go to the WinLink website, www.winlink.org. Tremendous amount of information there for you, the WinLink user or a prospective new user, to find. Book of Knowledge will give you a lot of help, tutorials, videos. You can download the software, and there's some unique aspects that I'll show you in just a minute that make it worthwhile. Discussion forums. These are the ones that I manage. This is where you can join. I highly recommend you join, and you can find out information, and you can post your questions, your problems, your issues. Now we'll go on to the next part. How does all this work? These are the gateways. This is what a gateway is, it looks like. This is the one in San Jose, Costa Rica, installed at their illustrious 911 dispatch center. I wish the one I had managed looked that good. That's a WinLink gateway, a complete WinLink gateway. See if I have a better shot. Whoops. There's your packet station for local communications if needed, the Pactor modem, the TNC that handles packet, the ICOM HF 7300 radio, and the computer with all the software built in. There's a giant UPS under the table to keep this from having power glitches. This facility has two giant 25 kW backup generators that have never failed yet in the 2 years of an operation. I believe if anybody's from the Caribbean islands listening, this is the equipment that's being sent to you. And I believe Dominica already has this equipment, has been sent. This is their two giant generators. What the heck? This is a complete gateway that we had to take by airplane and install in La Paz, Mexico. We had to package all this up. Most of it we carried on board as carry-on luggage, and a little bit we put in. Actually, we carried all of this on board, I remember now. This is all the equipment it takes. There's about $3,700 sitting there. This is La Paz, Mexico. A gateway needs good, reliable emergency power. This is there installing the two solar panels. This is installing one of two batteries. And that's the La Paz gateway in Mexico. It reaches an average range of about 2,000 kilometers and it covers the bands of 80, 40, 30, and 20. This is all the equipment. smart charger, solar, very reliable. It does not fail. This is a very expensive gateway, the one I generally manage. I happen to be within driving distance of me. This is in Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. This is XC2B&C. This is them changing out to new batteries. Maintenance is important. There's $700 worth of brand new batteries. They had to replace the one he's using as a seat there. They gave up after 4 years. That is a very, very good gateway system. All these things you see to the right and to the left, those are Ubiquiti 5 gigahertz links that connect to other hilltops to packet gateways to provide extensive area coverage for this gateway. And if the internet fails, it sends it all out on HF radio. This site happens to have an ICOM 7200, an auto tuner, and it works incredibly well. Portable. This is a portable kit. This is a complete portable gateway and or client user station that can be taken anywhere. There's also an accompaniment battery box and solar panels. This can be taken out into the middle of nowhere, set up in about 1 hour with 2 people, and you can then communicate for the rest of the world to send and receive email traffic, photos, attachments, whatever. It can also be used as an emergency gateway to put on a hilltop in a vehicle, to take in traffic locally and send out an area that doesn't really have any gateway support. Now I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how how the client software that Jay was indicating can be used to connect to a gateway locally if it's on the same network. This is what we'll probably end up configuring the Caribbean islands for. Once the equipment gets installed, that we're installing probably in a couple of months when the COVID-19 restrictions get lifted, this equipment, because this gateway happens to be on the same network, it's 25 miles away, but it's on the same local area network. Well, in the Caribbean, this could be another computer in whatever office they have. A gateway should never be touched. A gateway needs to be left alone to do its job. How do they send traffic? If they have no internet, they don't worry about it. The gateway will do it on HF Autoforce. They just simply connect to the gateway, as I just did. That just connected the gateway 25 miles away over Telnet IP address of the gateway. That could be 5 miles away, 50 feet away. It doesn't matter as long as it's on the same network. I want to show you real quick the templates just because Jay had some technical difficulties we all have. One of the things you can do with Express, you can predefine forms ahead of time, and you can also change that during an event. This is a form that was used a lot during the Puerto Rican earthquake. Why is this important? Because it forces you to have the same data at both ends. This is an ICS 213 general message form. When you send it, it's sent very small. At the other end, this is what they get. This is a WinLink check-in form used to check into a network to let people know you're on the air. So you don't have to get on a voice radio and tell them anything. You fill out what it is, what your condition is, and you send it. That easy. How many forms are there? There are a lot. There are forms and forms and forms and forms for every type of situation used by many people. That's how impressive Express is. Setting it up is not that difficult. You don't have to worry about all the features. If the only thing you do is get WinLink Express set up and you use nothing but create a message and send it as text, that's fine. You've done your job. The other side will get it. All these other features, such attaching photos and all that, is icing on the cake. And we can always do another workshop and go into some of the intensive details. What does a gateway look like that's an actual operation? Whoop, wrong button. These are all the WinLink gateways that I remote sysop. We'll be adding about 5 to 7 more in the Caribbean and another one in the Federated States of Micronesia on the island of Wino. Go look that up. Here's Dominican Republic right now, the Dominican Republic, Republic of Dominica, not Dominica. This is all the traffic they have received, or they've received and sent. Because it has internet right now, when a person connects with their client software by radio, the moment they connect, they get a connection to the central mail server because this has internet and their traffic is sent. But suppose they have no internet. I will emulate a loss of internet and show you what happens. Major hurricanes just gone through. They still have power in the antenna. It's going to go into automatic HF forwarding. It's going to use a propagation matrix and go pick the best choice of a gateway, and it will borrow that gateway's internet. Doesn't pass the traffic to it. It will borrow that gateway's internet. So I'm going to close that because I don't want to keep it offline that long. How does it know to do all that? It has network settings and propagation matrix that a system operator sets up. You, the client, would not do it. But what I didn't cover, and I think it's important before I close, how easy is it to use Express on a radio? Just this easy. I have a Pactor 4 modem here. Select, I can actually do all the protocols, but I'll select Pactor. This would be you in the middle of nowhere with a portable radio, laptop, maybe your car battery, and a simple HF antenna. Because you put your grid square in, which you can change at any time, it knows your location in relationship to every other gateway in the world. It will come up with a propagation matrix with path quality and give you options to choose. So I can choose XC2B and C, connect to it. And what you don't hear is the Pactor modem sending Pactor tones out. I can connect to XC2B and C and send my traffic. XC2B and C is all gateways are scanning 4 to 5 channels. So it takes about 26, 28 seconds. If I don't catch it at the right sequence, I may have to do it again. If it's busy, we got a connection. I don't know how well is it showing up. Maybe I can make it a little bigger. Nope. It just connected to the gateway on Pactor. It's going to connect. It's connecting to the CMS by internet. It's going to send my traffic first. WinLink Express always sends your outbound traffic first. Why? You may have an emergency message and you only got about a minute battery left. So it'll send your traffic first. It will then bring in traffic for you after your traffic is gone, if you have any traffic. Well, I don't want to get too confusing here. So probably it's best to, okay, I think I'll turn it back over to Augusto, if you want to give him a break, and whoever, George or Augusto, whoever's going to continue on. And that's my part of the presentation.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. That's really great. And Jay, thank you as well. So I guess at this point I need to turn this over to Augusto and have him man the microphones there.
Okay. Let me unmute. Everybody is muted now. What I would suggest is that everybody mute themselves so that only the person making a question can be heard.
I don't think everyone's muted yet.
No.
Well, you can mute and unmute now, as you wish.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, any questions?
Very impressive presentation, both of them. Thank you very much, Jay.
Well, you're very welcome. I'd like to make one little comment there. As Mike was showing you the propagation and all that, as I said in my presentation, your grid square is very important. And a lot of the times what I've found here in Canada, and I want you guys to think about this, if any of you are grid square chasers, you do realize that sometimes you get into a situation where you'll be located on 2 grid squares. Even though the system knows where you are by your grid square, don't change. I mean, if you move 100 feet, and you're in a grid square that just changes because of the line that doesn't exist other than in the air, don't change your grid square. It still knows where you are. So if you move 10 feet and you're actually in another grid square on the grid square maps, you do not have to change your grid square. If you change to 30 or 40 miles down the road where you're in the new grid square, that's something to consider. So that's when you're changing these things, it's very vital, because if not, you're setting yourself up for a whole bunch of problems when it comes to emergency communications.
Jay, let me show them how that works real quick, because
Yeah.
it's very easy. Grid square is established two ways. You set up the grid square manually by knowing your longitude and latitude. You can copy it and you can post a report. But why is it important in the settings? In the settings, here's where you put your grid square manually. If you move, in all honesty, this is only useful for the propagation matrix. This is only useful for the propagation matrix. So if you're only going to move like one grid square over, is it that critical on HF at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Probably not. For people in the sailing community, they change their grid square a lot, and they use GPS to do it. Express will accept the GPS connection, and you will change the grid square for you automatically. Is it that critical? I don't think so. Back to the group.
Any other questions, guys?
Victor has one.
Any questions, folks?
Victor, Whiskey Papa 4, Quebec Zulu Hotel has one. Unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you, Augusto. And thank you for the speakers. Victor from Puerto Rico here. I had a question about WinLink. It's one of the features, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, is the peer-to-peer messages that you can send. Can you explain some of that, please?
Okay, so peer-to-peer, I just touched on it briefly. We usually recommend that you get a little bit of experience sending messages through Telnet so you can see it send and come back, and then try to do it with your WinLink settings just through radio. Peer-to-peer is very specific, okay? So when you're doing peer-to-peer messaging, I'm sitting here in Canada. If I put in Mike's call sign down in Mexico, that's the only radio I'm talking to. When I go through the system, it's going to find Mike. It's not going to find anybody else. So I can't share it with George or Augusto or anybody else. Peer-to-peer, it's person to person. That is what it's used for. In an emergency situation, you may be in a place where you have very difficult abilities to communicate to multiple organizations or multiple outside organizations. So peer-to-peer can be used where I'm at the shelter and Mike's over at the Emergency Operations Center. He's got better coverage over there because of propagation and that. So I'm going to use my 2-meter rig. I'm going to send my messages directly to him, and then he can forward those messages without editing. And that's something we didn't cover. You can send a message to another WinLink station and they can forward it without editing the message. That means that there is no way that they can touch the message for security purposes. So from peer to peer, I can send it to Mike, and then Mike can send it to whatever destination is on that message. Does that cover that, Victor, or do you need anything else?
You have to unmute. Unmute, Victor.
I don't think he can unmute himself.
Oh, now I can. Thank you, Augusto. So essentially, it would be like a liaison station.
Well, it can be, but really, if you're going to start playing radio to radio and you got a couple of handhelds and you've got somebody that's close by to you within like 10 kilometers or 10 miles, whatever you use as a distance reference, you can play with them using peer-to-peer. And the nice thing about peer-to-peer is it takes it off of the RMS actual frequencies. Like you as a peer-to-peer, like Mike and I, if we wanted to use 80 meters, for instance, and we picked a low end 80 meters, we can go off the frequencies that are being used by the RMS system to send and receive on RF. We can pick our own frequency, send the message back and forth. It limits you in the sense that you're only talking to one radio station. But if you've got a lot of traffic that's going back and forth and you want to free up some of the international frequencies that are being used, sometimes peer-to-peer can be very, very helpful. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Let me add something to Jason was saying. Keep in mind, peer-to-peer is radio to radio. I don't care if it's VHF, UHF, microwave, or HF. It takes two stations. They both have to be line of sight to communicate with each other, or band connected on HF. And it's only to that gateway, to that station. Peer-to-peer takes a little bit of training and practice. The gateways that are going in the Caribbean will all have packet radio attached to them. I don't know if any of those islands have a lot of packet radio people, but if they do, they'll be able to take advantage of packet radio and they can do some training on peer-to-peer.
I have another question about the RDOF protocol. How does it stand against VARA?
RDOF is not as effective as VARA HF if you have the registered version.
Okay, I'm gonna have to agree with Mike. Okay, guys, if you're gonna play with WinLink, WinLink is not FL Digi, it's not JT Call, it's not any of these things. If you're setting up frequencies that you're going to be using all the time, spend a little bit of extra money, get yourself a good TNC. The newer radios, like I use a 710 from Kenwood. It's got a built-in TNC. It works great for 2 meters. But if you're going to get into long distance communications and all that, don't rely on sound card systems, please, because if you're in an emergency, this is the one time that you don't want to be cheaping out and not having a system that is going to be reliable. It's like buying a very cheap throwaway radio and expecting it to work when you've left it in a bag for 10 months and never once checked it. The same as, like I said, your WinLink systems do not get put together. That nice little kit that Mike showed you, you don't put it in that box, roll it into your closet and leave it there. Part of your maintenance is making sure that system is working. That includes your TNCs, pull them out, make sure they're working. But no, don't rely on sound card systems, please.
I have a couple of questions from the people on YouTube.
Okay.
Number one, I have a question from Papa 43 Lima. He says, if you can go over tuning your radio for a better WinLink connection, for example, the ALC level, Windows sound card levels, radio power level, etc.
I don't quite understand.
Yeah, me neither.
He wants to know if you can go over how you can tune your radio.
Tune your radio?
Yeah, the radio.
Okay, well, first of all, you don't really tune the radio.
You need to have on your radio.
Okay, so we're not
ALC levels, Windows sound card levels, radio power, etc.
Okay, first off, like I said a minute ago, I don't recommend sound cards. I recommend good solid TNCs. I'm sure Michael backed me up with that. Second of all, yep, tune your antennas. You can have a turnable dipole, you can have whatever, tuned to the frequency that you're going to be using. This is why I said, when you make your plan and your maintenance plan and you're working your plans, pick your frequencies, know the frequencies you're going to use. Because if you're tuned to those frequencies with propagation and everything else, you are going to probably have better reception than if you're going with just, a 40 meter dipole and all of a sudden you got to bend it over and try to make it work on 15. Mike, you got a comment?
Yeah, if you're going to use sound card protocol, every computer system and every radio is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to download Express. You're going to have to learn it. And you can go to the 2 forums on the WinLink website and ask questions, and there are tutorials to how to set everything up, how to adjust your sound card levels in your computer, how to adjust your sound card levels in radios that have built-in codecs, how to adjust your levels if you're using a signal. If you cannot afford a Pactor modem and you're going to do sound card protocol on HF, Vera HF registered for $69 one time for life is probably your best bet. If you're going to be on FM, use Vera FM. Vera FM will outperform packet radio 10 times over. I do recommend you go to the WinLink website, go to the support group link, and you can ask those kind of questions and get real-time answers.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
They are asking what is necessary to install an RMS server on Aruba, HF and VHF.
Well, I'll show you. Look. Want to know what it's going to take to install? About $3,500 and a lot of effort.
Mike, I think we should explain to them that these are fixed stations. These are the stations that really, there's a lot of maintenance guys. There's a lot of planning to going into this. And a lot of people, yeah, you can do gateways at home and stuff that are more or less a portable type system. But when you're talking more permanent systems, like what Mike's showing you here, there's a lot that goes into planning this out and making it work. It's not just, oh, I've got a few things here and there and I've got an internet connection.
Yeah, you have, if you're wanting to do a gateway in Aruba, more power to you. We can provide offline all the technical information you need, what you need to buy. And as an example, this is probably the best one we did. Like I said, it was Costa Rica. You're going to need to have all this equipment. You're going to need all this equipment. You're going to need a dedicated computer. You're going to need a dedicated radio. This is a gateway. Can you use it as a client station if you connect on Telnet from another computer? But you're going to need a radio, power supply, Pactor modem. You cannot get out without a Pactor modem. You're going to need emergency power. You're looking at $35,000 to $4,000 depending on how you slice it and what you do. Go ahead, Augusto.
Okay, there's another question. Is there any plan to make on a regular basis any Caribbean WinLink emergency practice?
Well, I guess that would be up to the guys down there. Like I said, that's part of making the plan. Now that you've got systems going in place, each of the groups that are on the islands, they'll have to make their own plans. And, you know, it's coordination through, I mean, you can use IARU and, you know, groups like this to talk to each other and figure out what the bases are, what you want to do, and you know, what's first base, second base, third base, until you get a system in place and practices set up. It's recommended anywhere, whether it be in the United States, Canada, any place across region 2. If you're going to start using WinLink as a tool in your toolbox, there's all sorts of training and scheduling that you should be doing so that you have a very good understanding of those operations.
Let me explain something very to these people. Sorry to jump in. The gateways that are going in the Caribbean are RMS gateways that will get most of the traffic from outside, off that island. If people on the island want to use those gateways, they have two options: an HF radio or packet radio that they can connect direct to that gateway. If you have an HF radio on that island as a client out in the middle of nowhere, you can connect to that gateway. You can connect to any gateway in the world that you can reach on HF. Those installations in the Caribbean islands Unless they have a telnet connection to another computer, they're primarily a gateway for out of the area. Remember, WinLink sends and receives out of the area. So when they first get installed, will those people get to use it on those islands? Probably not, unless they have an HF radio or a packet radio.
So there you go. There's a different type of situation. So it is going to take some time, but you guys will have to schedule some training around how you're going to be accessing that gateway. Whether you use local 2 meters to a HF station that you're using locally that'll connect to that gateway, and make a plan, make it work, figure out what's going to work best for you, what the propagation is. I mean, I'm not familiar with everything that's going on down there. Mike's more familiar with it than I am, but when it can be used locally, you can start doing that. I don't know what the internet services are like down across those areas, but if you're going to be doing it over 2 meter, remember, it's line of sight, guys. And sooner or later, you're going to have to connect to an HF station that'll get to one of those gateways. So it is a plan that you guys will have to sit down and come up with.
Let me show them real quick how many gateways they will have that they can connect to now in the Caribbean if they have an HF radio and an HF antenna and a PACTOR modem or Vera HF register. Have to wait for it to initialize.
Hey, Mike, while you're showing them that, you want to also show them what forecast is on that, just so that they understand why we're using these grid squares, because I think a lot of people forget that forecast is there. So it helps out quite a bit, especially with HF propagation.
Let me real quick get this one out of the way. This is all available to you out there by going to the WinLink website. These are all the PACTOR gateways in the world that are active. They give the real-time status on the internet connection. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit. There's your gateways that you have. You have one in Dominican now that's not part of the ITU network. It's a private individual, but you can use it. This gives you an idea of all the gateways that are available. As far as you wanted them to know about the,
Open a PACTOR session.
okay, there we go.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you look on Mike's screen here, you'll see the word forecast. He's going to show you that this is really important for you guys to practice with. All right, here's your channel selections, but you can do propagation forecasts right from your WinLink. Before, you used to have to go into like AirMail or another program to do that. This is now set up so that if you're using your HF station to send messages and you're not quite sure whether or not the propagation is good, it's right there for you.
Keep in mind, this propagation matrix is a guide. It's not written in concrete. You
Right.
have no control over HF. You have no control over the other station. You don't know what kind of antenna he's doing. This modeling is based on a military propagation model of two 100-watt stations with two dipoles at half wavelength above ground. You have no idea. As an example, N5TW in Texas has multiple antennas stacked. He's a very powerful station, usually pointed towards the Pacific and the Caribbean, very popular with the sailors. You might want to connect to another gateway. Just because it says green is not necessary. You need to become HF savvy. Is this a good start? Yes. Would I waste my time down on the reds? Probably not. But you need to pick gateways that you can connect to, and you need to experiment and practice. It's all about being HF savvy.
There's another question which is relevant to that. The gentleman says, it seems that VARA is the way to go. Is this mode available in all gateways? And I was, while you were showing the map where you can see which are the PACTOR gateways, there was also the option of looking at which ones have VARA. It means that not all of them have it?
It's up to the system operator. If he has a radio capable of doing codec sound cards, or he wants to spend $120 and put a signal in, he probably is going to run VARA. Is VARA HF the way to go? If you cannot afford a Pactor modem, it's probably the only thing you can use that's going to be worth a darn. VARA HF is about 90% effective as Pactor 3. It breaks down in band conditions. It doesn't do multipath or fading very well, and it cannot hold a very long connection. Pactor can do that. I'm not knocking VARA HF. Jose is continuing to improve it all the time, and it's going to get better. Will it ever replace Pactor? No, it will never replace Pactor. Why? Because that $1,500, $1,100 modem that's built by the Germans has its own computer and processor in there, and you're not going to do that with a sound card. You can't get the wavelength or the symbol. I'll let me show you the number of VARA. There's a lot of VARA. Most of the gateways are doing both now. I know all our gateways that I manage are all doing both. We're dropping Winmore May 13th. The gateways that I manage will no longer do Winmore. You'll only be able to do RDOT, VARA, if you have a registered version. If you don't have VARA as a registered version, it's a good place to learn and try. Unregistered VARA is about equal to RDOT, if that gives you an indication. And if you have a Pactor modem, oh, and this is one thing, this is the HF auto forward stations. Notice it says hybrid. So this gateway here can forward automatically if he uses internet. Did I stop sharing? Nope. There we go. Go ahead. Back to you, Augusto.
Okay. There's another question here. It says, what would you recommend to an EmCom manager to begin a regular net in an area and to make in the future regular WinLink practices on emergencies and many other advantages?
Take that one, Jason.
Right. So when you're dealing with emergency management, one of the things you do not want to do is walk in and show them something they're already using. You want to show them something that is going to be a benefit. So if you want to start doing stuff like this, you have to get a couple of stations. You can use 2 meters. You can use a handheld. It's really more impressive when you walk in with a small handheld and you can send an email using a handheld and a laptop as a selling feature. Because you got to remember, a lot of emergency services, I don't know what they're like down there, communications, the second priority for communications in the world is emergency services. The first priority is military use. So we're talking, these guys get to see everything before we even hear about it. All right. So you're going to go in, you want to set this up. You need to explain to them that, you know, there are going to be times. Now, I don't know where the question's coming from. So there are going to be times where they're going to lose their internet. So show them that using a handheld and a laptop, you can send an email from here to down the street. And then if they bite on that there, you start practicing, get better, and then you can show them different equipment. Don't walk in and show them like the top of the line stuff, especially if you're not very familiar with it. Get used to something that's simple that you can use all the time. And then as you get better with the other equipment that's available to you, then you sell them on that stuff there. And don't forget, we're talking solely about WinLink communications right now. WinLink also has some connectivity with APRS. All right. And a lot of people don't look at that, but APRS and WinLink go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, my WinLink station and my APRS station are the 2 stations that I bring with me on any call out when I'm asked to go, whether it be training or whatever, because I have my positioning reports and all that. But what's really nice is my 710, my radio, even before I get my WinLink station set up, I can answer and get my WinLink messages over my radio through APRS. So there's a lot of extra connectivity that you'll see later on if we get a chance to come back and do a couple more sessions on advanced WinLink use. But if you're going to sell it to somebody straight up, just give them a little bit of information. Use something small and portable. Don't try to walk in and give them the world, because if you're not really, really good at it, it's not going to work.
Let me add a couple of quick things to what Jason said. I highly recommend you join the WinLink for EmCom group. The WinLink for EmCom group off the WinLink website on the support page size. Why? Because you can go to that group and ask those kind of questions and you will get real-time answers from people. Real-time answers from people. You can get documents, you can get what they've done and used, more than we can give you here. You can spend time and find out about all the EmCom groups and what they do for training. How do they get set up with a served agency? All that is available there. So I recommend you spend time on the WinLink website. Again, WinLink website, please.
Okay, let me jump in here for a minute. I first of all wanted to recognize that we have had Rodrigo Robos, I hope I have that right, Rodrigo, who is the ITU, one of the ITU representatives in Region 2, and wanted to welcome him. And if you wish, I can unmute your mic and you can say a word or two if you want to. Whoop. Okay. Oh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this session. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Mike. And all the exchange of questions and answers was wonderful. Yes, we are working. We installed with Mr. Cesar Santos and Jonathan Rema, Alfonso, and Mike. We installed different nodes here in Central America, in different countries, and we are working now with our office, from our ITU office in Barbados, to install 7 more nodes. Our planning was installed in March and April, but due to the COVID, we hope install before the end of the year. But we are working in giving some information for the governmental agencies. So, but I could confirm that all the equipment is in the island, all the customs well clearance. So we are only waiting that all the travel restrictions finish, so we can go to the island to install the equipment and have 7 more nodes. Thank you very much. Please continue supporting the work of the amateur radio, working with ITU. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rodrigo. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. It's very important that everyone understands that this is something which is not only a cooperative effort in the Americas, but is something that's quite visible to the entire international community. I believe a while back, Kim had a question. Kim, if you have a question, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks, George. Yeah, just Kim from Trinidad and Tobago. Just wanted to know a couple of things. First is, where are the gateways and the remote the remote servers? Where are they generally set up? In the disaster management units or other facilities?
Well, that's up to the people to buy the equipment and where they choose to install it. The ones in Central America, luckily, are all installed in government facilities with emergency power and nice and secure, usually the 911 center or some other government facility. Most of the ones in Mexico are the same way. There are a lot of gateways in the world that are installed in people's garages or houses without backup power. I'm against those, but this is the way we want to do it. I'm hoping the ones that go into the Caribbean are going to be installed in government facilities with emergency power. Without that, when you lose internet, you have a major disaster, they're of absolutely no value.
Yeah, Kim, here in Canada, lots of people go and they set up their own little gateways and that. And unfortunately, as Mike was saying, there's a lot of these gateways, they don't have backup power, they don't have anything, but the CMS servers are located all around the world. We have one here in Halifax. Those are our main servers that will handle a lot of the traffic. The gateways themselves, I mean, you can set one up at your own residence. The problem is there's maintenance. That's one of those fixed stations that I was talking about. It's not a portable station. It is a fixed station. It takes a lot more work and a lot more dedication to actually have a fixed station going all the time. We have a team up in Barrie here that have one of these gateways through the hospital, and the gateway goes down. They can't even get in right now because of COVID-19. So the access to it has to be a shared agreement between you and whoever you're going to have it, especially in a government facility. It's one of those things that has to stay up running all the time. It's not a portable station, and like Mike said, I agree that if you've got the money to do that and put it in, and you can guarantee that you've got yourself good internet connection, you got good backup power and all that, no problems. But if you're just going to put a thing in the garage for, you and a couple of your friends down the street, it's not a reliable gateway. And, you can't, unfortunately, it's on the network. So when you go and you call out and try to find out what gateways are around you, you are going to see them, but there's no guarantee you're going to get it.
Gotcha. Thanks, Jason and Mike. Yeah, that's why I was asking if it's generally set up, if they're generally set up in the emergency management units. That's of course, the government agencies, the emergency disaster management agencies, DMAs. Yeah. And if so, then is it that they are guaranteed to have licensed operators, at these agencies? So thanks a lot.
Let me answer a couple quick more things, Kim. These gateways do not have an operator on them. They are standalone automatic. They don't need an operator.
Right.
Number two, all these you see here, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama City, Dominican Republic, Mexico City, Guanajuato, Tijuana, all these are in government facilities with a 24/7 emergency power. One of the requirements of WinLink is if you run an HF gateway, you have to be certified before you can do an HF gateway. You're supposed to agree 24 hours, 7-day a week, the best of your financial ability. Packet gateways, the ones that Jay's making a lot of reference to, packet gateways can be anywhere. And most of these, I'll tell you right now, they're in garages, people's houses, whatever. But for local communications, that's all right. But if you're going to be an HF gateway, you're kind of asked to try to do it. Do we have a way to check that you've done it? No, I'm not going to drive to everybody's house or government facility. I don't have that time to do it. But most of them, I can tell by their traffic loading. I can go in and look at the traffic loading, and I can pretty much tell what everyone's doing. I'm giving you some secret information. And I can go in and see things, and I can tell if a gateway is 24/7 or not. And the WinLink team does try to keep people online as much as possible. But as you saw on that map, you don't have to always get the same one. You've got an HF radio, you can get to a gateway 2,000-3,000 kilometers away. So I hope that helps explain a little bit.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Francisco, you also had a question. Could you please go ahead now?
Thanks, George. Good night to everybody. I think it's for Mike or maybe Jason, whichever one answer. I got a question in terms of gateways. If there's an advantage of having a local gateway, something in the island in terms of communication versus practicing and knowing which gateway you can hit, based on propagation and the band that you're using, and knowing the gateways that you have available based on that, or there's actually technically an advantage of having a gateway at your site locally.
Let me try to answer that. Yeah, we like to see gateways in every island in the world because their primary purpose is for people outside that gateway's location to connect to, okay? That's the premise. Will it do you any good? Only if that local gateway, number one, is connected at a communication center to another computer so they can get to it by telnet, or has a packet radio or Vera FM access to it that you can use locally. If you don't have an HF radio, you're not going to connect to that gateway. If you have an HF radio, you can connect to mini gateways. Having it on that individual island is only good if you have a telnet connection from another computer in the emergency center so they can use that when internet is down, or they have a packet or Vera FM infrastructure to get connectivity to it to send messages when traffic is down. Does that help?
Sure. There's no way of knowing. I mean, I don't know how many, most of the islands that I see in the map, they don't have a gateway. Is there's a plan or there's some movement from the IARU to promote that, gateways are established in each of the islands?
I think that's what they were just saying, that there is equipment being delivered. But once you get those gateways established, again, as Mike was saying, access to those gateways, by the sounds of it, are through HF only. All right. So when you're setting these things up, you also have to look again at what their mission is. Their mission, from what I'm getting out of this, is to get their message somewhere else, somewhere outside of the area.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This isn't going to be 2 meter. This is not going to be something that's for local use. This is for getting that message to the next guy. All right. So I don't know too much of what they're planning to put in down there. Is it okay to set up gateways yourself and have those things? Absolutely. Like Mike said, the more of us that use WinLink and have stations that are on the air that are able to relay or do whatever, the better the whole system is worldwide. However, you also have to look at too, that the more infrastructure you put in place, the more infrastructure you have to look after. So if you're in a situation where, like Puerto Rico, where there's no infrastructure, you're going to be coming in with portable stuff and you're going to be relying on those gateways outside of the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing what they're doing, more so than local area gateways, because if there's no infrastructure, you need to practice getting to the next station and being able to connect.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try one more thing to help you a little bit. These are the gateways that you can reach. Where are you located?
Puerto Rico. I can hit Dominican Republic easily.
Okay, so you've got some gateways that you can reach. Mm-hmm. On Puerto Rico, if you had a gateway, could you use it locally? Yes, if you have a packet infrastructure or a Vera FM instructor. But the biggest thing is, these gateways here that you see in Central America, we haven't done phase 2 yet. Phase 2 is where I go in on TeamViewer and they give me a computer to connect to that's connected to the same network that the gateway, for example, in Honduras is. I can then set them up so they can use that gateway during an emergency as a client station. They don't have to have an HF radio. It's there in front of them on emergency power. And when HF4 something occurs, would you be able to do that in Puerto Rico? If you had the gateway installed in a primary government facility, yes, they could do the same thing.
Okay.
Use a local computer to connect to it. Everybody else, however, would have to have either a local HF radio, which they could connect that, or any other gateway like you're doing, or some sort of local infrastructure. And as Jay indicated, the bigger the infrastructure, the more points of failure. But each gateway that the IARU is providing, installing, is a complete package, HF and packet. As an example, the one in Costa Rica, they use the packet radio side a lot. They developed a whole net port. They've actually put an extra digipeater up. So it kind of builds on itself. So that's why it's a good idea to have the packet radio. Do they have Vera FM? No, but they do have packet radio, and that is still a good medium. I hope that answers.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any other questions this evening, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
Just before the question, I want to make a personal comment on this. I installed the WinLink client here in my shack about a month and a half ago. And the person who helped me was Jonathan from Mexico. And while doing the testing and everything, we tried different protocols. And he said, look, what you want to go with is Vara, because he said it's way faster. So we were doing the first tests. And as soon as we tested Vara, right then and there, I went in and paid for the license, because the difference in speed was, I mean, incredible. So if you guys are gonna consider setting up a client station, have a look at it, because it's really worth the time you save with it. It's very fast. Now, and I'm commenting on this because there's a question here on YouTube. There's a gentleman who's asking if there are any future plans to unify the protocol of communications, for example, Factor 4 for gateway stations, because they are now concerned that their investments in hardware will soon become obsolete due to a poor selection of the digital data transmission protocols.
Negative. The PACTOR modem made by SCS, the current Dragon, is backwards compatible to all modes. This is why SCS is the leader. All their firmware updates, when they went from PACTOR 3 to PACTOR 4, it was simply a firmware update that you would have in the newer modem. There will be no obsolescence with PACTOR. They are that good. However, PACTOR 4 right now, because of the bandwidth of 2.4 kilohertz, is probably going to be the most you're going to see out of PACTOR for a long time.
Okay, another question in here is, are the EmCom WinLink stations only for emergencies, or could they be used to practice some EmCom features?
Okay, here's the deal. That's called service codes. If you have your client set up for public, and you add EmCom, so you can see the EmCom gateways, you can use them, but I would recommend you contact the system operator and see if he's okay with that. The whole purpose of the EmCom service code was certain groups wanted to be able to isolate their gateway from the general public use, so they have a guarantee that it's going to be there for them locally all the time. So contact that system operator and see if it's okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mike there. For most of the stuff that you want to practice on, you want to practice public. Yeah, depending on where you are, if you're good with the systems guys, I agree with Mike. Contact them first before you change that from public to EmCom.
Okay, are there any further questions?
Not on YouTube.
Not on YouTube. Any further questions on Zoom? Okay, if there are no further questions, I think it's time, first of all, to say thank you very much to Mike and to Jay. Very educational. I certainly learned a lot tonight. This is brand new for me, and it was quite interesting. And thank you to everyone who participated, both on Zoom and on YouTube. We hope it's good. Please send your comments, your feedback to the email address workshops@IARU-R2.org, or go on our website and you can find the email address there. Either way, but let us know how you felt this session, how this session worked for you, as well as if you have ideas for future sessions. That's something we'd be very interested in. Augusto is very much looking forward to getting your feedback, as are all of us. Wow. Anyhow, so with that, I'm going to say good night, unless Ramon, any closing comments from you?
No, just congratulate Mike and Jay for the excellent presentation. Really was a learning experience, and thank you all for the participation. For IRU Region 2, the priority at this moment, working together with ITU, is the Caribbean. We make a commitment with the Secretary General at CTU, and she wants us to participate actively. So I know that some of the islands will have an important part. I am very happy and thankful for all the large group of people from Trinidad, from TITARS. We hope, especially having the headquarters of CTU there, we really need to have a good setup there and give an example to the Secretary General right there. And of course, the rest of the people from St. Lucia and of course from Puerto Rico, we are very happy to have you. This is a recurrent emergency every year, so we just need to be prepared.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramon, and to everyone, good night and 73.
73.
Very much.
Good night.
73.
Thanks. 73.
73.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
beaucoup.
73 to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good evening, 73.
Great job, Augusto.
Adios, amigos.
Muchas gracias.
My apologies, Jason, for the unmuted comments I was making at the beginning of your presentation.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. I have a family too. I know what it's like. All right. Great job, though. You guys did a really, really good job.
We'll be doing it again in 2 weeks for the general EmCom WinLink conference too, right?
I think it's next week you got me on there for Canada and the United States.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's next week, yeah. And also, by the way, to all who are still here, my apologies for not answering every single email, but some of the flood of emails I get, since this is new, and most of us are staying at home, I'm getting a ton of emails every day, and it's very difficult to keep up with all of them. So if you sent an email, whether it was asking for something or thanking me for something or whatever, and I didn't write back, my sincere apologies, but it's very difficult to get to all of them. I'm getting dozens and dozens of emails every day. So I'll do my best to answer to each one of you, but if I don't, I really apologize.
If you have any further questions, Augusto, please feel free to email them off to me and we'll try to answer as many as we can.
Okay, thank you very much. And to everybody, I highly suggest you subscribe to the YouTube channel for workshops on EARU Region 2. That'll keep you informed if there are any upcoming presentations that you may be interested in. If you didn't go into the website and have a look at the schedule, you can still get information from YouTube automatically because it will be there. You will know when a live cast is starting.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out too. I've been so busy.
Yep.
All right, my friends. Good night. 73. We will talk to you guys next week.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey, Robbie.
Oh, hi, Jeff.
What's happening, man?
Doing all right. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, all. 73.
Good night. 73.
73, everyone.
Bye-bye.
73 is the one all.